Welcome back to Kramer's Millionaire Maker. Here again is Hilary Kramer.
And welcome back to the show where you are going to become a millionaire, and that's because I am going to explain to you what's going on in the stock market way ahead of everybody else. You don't want to be investing looking in the rearview mirror. We have Tal Ben-Ari with us because Tal and I really get down deep into these technology companies. But first, Tal, what happened with the pot stocks this week? That was crazy. The cannabis stocks were doubling and then coming down and doubling. Give us the overview.
Sure. So this is kind of, again, on that same trend. It's the retail investors making their mark on the market. And what you're seeing is it was a crazy perfect storm, right? A catalyst that was really nice in the beginning of the week. You had senators talking about, like Democratic senators talking about how they were trying to make marijuana legal by the year 2021, which is this year, right? And so everybody started jumping on it. The internet went crazy about it. And then all of a sudden you see the Redditors of the world buying up stocks like nobody's business. I mean, the top three mentioned Reddit stocks this week were all pot stocks. It was like Tilray, Apriva, and Canopy Growth. And all of a sudden you see this crazy bump, 40%, 25%. And then of course, you see a bit of a short squeeze coming out of it. And obviously these are inflated prices because this is just such preliminary news, right? You're going to want to see a lot more news about like the movement and the actually bills or something getting pushed through the Senate before that's actually going to come to fruition. But people jumped on it. You saw this huge pop, and then immediately people took it.
Okay, but here's the question. Is this the time to buy at least a little bit and be in it, since many of these stocks came right back down to earth? I mean, they didn't go back down to the $17 range, but what do you think? I mean, would you buy some Canopy here? What would you buy?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I actually really like Tilray. I think Tilray has a really strong balance sheet. They're also pretty much known across the industry as like the innovator. They have a lot of different product lines. I also like Apriva. Apriva and Tilray actually announced in December that they were going to do a merger of sorts, and it bumped up their stock, and it's been staying high ever since then. They look really, really good to me. Of course, there's a couple big players. I also personally like the companies that are based mostly in America. And it's really hard to find them. Most of them are Canadian born, right? So you've got Crisco Labs and Harvest, and then you've got Green Thumb Industries, which is going to be the first company soon to be allowed to IPO on it through a U.S. company. All the other IPOs are coming through a Canadian company, so that's a big thing to look out for. I would say get in now before it's too late.
Okay. And talking about those IPOs, because that's been our topic, because I think there's so much money to be made on those initial public offerings. You can go to hilarykramer.com. We have IPO Edge, and we have stocks in there, quadruples, 1,000% winners. And we're going to be having some great cannabis companies in there that you're going to make well over 1,000% on. Okay, let's talk about semiconductors. It sounds boring, but it is not. The semiconductors are the brains of all these technologies that we're using. What in the world? Why are we having a shortage? And what stock should we be buying to take advantage of it?
Okay, so the real short version is we're having a shortage because from the trade war, from the Trump era trade war, basically, and obviously from COVID, we had a massive supply chain shortage. And every big company, from like the biggest company in the world, Taiwan Semiconductors, all the way down to like the Microns of the world, and even companies that are private right now, one of which I'll tell you about in just a minute, that I think we should look for that IPO, are all having a really hard time getting those pieces to the chip makers. So what you're seeing is right now, even though these chips are in such high demand, and the stocks of all these big companies, you got AMD, you got NVIDIA, you got Broadcom, you got Qualcomm, you got Micron, all these great companies that are still doing well, and their stocks are shooting up, but it's still in a shortage. So if they're shooting up now, I bet we're going to see bigger profits once that supply chain opens up. Another one that I'd really like to talk about as far as IPOs, there's a company, it's American, it's Global Foundries. They are one of the largest American privately held semiconductor manufacturers. And the nice thing about them is that they're probably not going to be, if this trade war continues, they're going to have the benefit of being here. So that trade war with China might not affect them as much. I would look out for them as an IPO in the coming year.
Okay, that's great. That's wonderful. And all that information, go to my website, hilarykramer.com, sign up for IPO Edge, and we're going to have all these companies on there, and that's where the big money is going to be made. You're not going to make any money on Amazon and Apple anymore. Okay, so what about these 52-week highs? I mean, when stocks hit 52-week highs, then they hit higher highs. So NVIDIA, with the electric vehicles, the electric cars, there's a lot of demand there. So we have NVIDIA, AMAT, Applied Materials. That's always been a forward company for us, because a forward looking, and it shows us the demand in semiconductors, because Applied Materials makes the equipment that the semiconductors are made on. So I love AMAT, AMAT, even have a great dividend yield in there, and that stock just continues to go higher. It doesn't matter which semiconductor company is in vogue or is doing a lot of the sales. They all turn to Applied Materials for their equipment. Any other stocks in the technology area that you'd recommend?
Yeah, so I do think it's really important to focus on the fact that the big trend in this world right now is electric vehicles and everything that goes into the electric vehicle and the autonomous vehicle market. So right now you saw a big jump on Microvision. Earlier in the week, they had great news coming out that they were hitting their marker for an April deadline to get their LiDAR technology out to the public. And that is huge. That's the technology that's basically the foundation, the backbone of autonomous vehicles, okay? And so this is a company that you saw a pretty nice jump, about 25%, but there's a lot of headway. And that's one. I also think another one is Fisker. It's a company that used to be an electric vehicle maker. They didn't do so well. They got bought up, and by new management, they've been doing so much better. They're coming out with beautiful new cars, make Tesla Model S look like nothing, and they have great management behind them. You're going to see them start to increase in the next year or two also. And I've got if you're interested, I've got a bunch of new picks coming up in Turbo Trader soon. It's going to be all about the new technologies and the ones that are going to drive us into the future.
And Turbo Trader has options, and it has stocks, and we do some real fast trading with that. Tal, thank you so much. Again, go to hilarykramer.com. You can sign up for our trading services, Turbo Trader, for example, but IPO Edge. That's some of these stocks we just talked about. There's going to be massive money in those. You can call Grant 202-677-4492 to sign up for IPO Edge, and you get a great report, the top 5 IPOs for the next 6 months. This is Hilary Kramer, the Millionaire Maker.